Well, look at you showing up for day 3 of our 30-day drawing adventure. Good for you. I'm so glad you're with me, and we're going to jump right into it. What you need for today are just something to draw with, something to draw on, and a little later I'll give you some details, but you're going to need a round container of some sort. Details will be coming. That's it for now. We'll see you in a sec. All right, here we go. Day 3. So, yesterday we talked about our first best friend in getting better at drawing, which is actually failure. And the second one we're going to talk about today, which is very similar in a lot of ways to the first one, in that you probably thought it was keeping you from being a better drawer, and you also already possess it. And that one is, as we mentioned yesterday, your ability to see what doesn't look right in a drawing. That is going to be one of your best friends in drawing together. See, that ability, you already possess it. But my challenge to you yesterday in making the list of what looked right and what didn't look right with your drawing and then working at it to fix it was actually an effort to get you to exercise that muscle in your brain that sees something and knows something isn't right. And that is a really important muscle to have in shape for drawing well. The good news is it's already there and you've already used it. The problem is you probably know something doesn't look right, but you may not know why. And the why is what we're going to work on today. It turns out that it's actually just 3 very simple things that are wrong with the structure of a drawing that allow it to not look right. Just 3 things. Can you believe it? And that's why it's so hopeful that you can learn this and you can exercise that part of your brain that knows what's wrong with something. So you know something's wrong, but I'm going to help you see what it is that's wrong so that you can fix it, so that you can avoid it when you're doing drawings in the future. That is something you have to learn to do. The good news is you already have it. And the other good news is that it's only really 3 things that are off. So let's talk a little bit about that drawing yesterday that you did. You know, it's entirely possible that you made that whole list of what is right that you liked about the drawing and what didn't look right in the drawing, and you took the time to redraw the whole thing, and you actually liked the second one worse than you liked the first one. That has happened to me many times. Don't be discouraged. It's part of the process. You're learning. That's happened to me many times before. Okay, we're going to do a little exercise where I'm going to draw the sailboat I drew from the first day. Don't worry, I'm not having you do it again. I'm going to redraw it with some common mistakes that are made in a drawing. And we're going to talk about those. I'm going to draw this quickly, and then we're going to talk about those mistakes. Okay, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but we're going to just quickly go over. I redrew a sailboat with a lot of the mistakes I've made in the past, and I see people make very often when drawing a drawing like the sailboat right here. This is the one I worked on my day 2, and this is the one I just did, intentionally making some common mistakes. And I just want to quickly talk about them with you a sec. I drew the sailboat first, which, if you remember from the first day when I drew it originally, I said to ground the drawing, kind of get the horizon in there so you knew where everything was kind of going to start from. But I didn't do that, and this time I just drew the sailboat in the middle of the page, which you can see here is this photo has the whole angle of that you're looking at the boat is kind of determined by where the horizon is. And we'll talk about that probably at some point another time, but where the horizon is really affects if you're looking down on something, looking up at something, or straight at something. And we're looking slightly oh, I'd say down on this because the horizon's kind of low in the composition of this photo. It's if you took this section here, the height of the drawing, the horizon's way down here. It's not even at the halfway point. In my drawing, I drew it right at pretty much the halfway point. So you're already going to have a hard time getting this sailboat to ever look right if you don't ground it in the same thing you're drawing right there. I mean, you can take a photo or draw a drawing of a sailboat with the horizon way up here, but it's not going to look like this drawing with it way up here very well. I didn't do it as much as I should have in this one, even. It's a mistake I noticed. So, see, I'm making the same mistakes still in my second drawing, even. But let's just point out quickly a few other things here that are very common things. The angle and shape of the boat. I drew what, and this is going to be something we're going to spend at least a whole day on at some point, but drawing what you see versus what you think you see. I know that's a sailboat, and so it's really hard. I tried to draw a sailboat here instead of what I actually was seeing. And the shape of that actual hull of that sailboat is not like this at all. It is from the side, but not in this photo. It's coming at you in this photo. In this drawing, it's going sideways. And the reason that is a very common mistake is because people are like, I'm drawing a sailboat. I know that's a sailboat, so it has to look like a sailboat. Where in reality, that shape of that boat, if I can kind of loosely draw it here, is like this in that drawing. And it might even be a little bit more like this. The shape of the hull compared to what, and that you see, so that's just what can be so hard is that that doesn't look like a sailboat. This looks like a sailboat to us, but often what real life presents us to draw is different than what we think it is, and that messes with us in our minds. So we're going to cover all this stuff later, but I just want to point out some things so I can tell you about the three things that really it all comes down to, and I'm kind of showing you them in this. The next thing is here, and it came into play a little bit with this one, but the bottom of that hull line and the waters there is kind of pretty steep down, and the angle there is kind of almost straight up on the front, where this is almost straight, and this is as an angle because we know it's the front of a boat. But this one's a little better. It should be probably more straight up in the front than it is to be accurate. And also the mast, the main mast of the sailboat here, in this one here, the angle is very important for establishing what that boat's doing and how it fits in, how it looks realistic, because I mean that is realistic, that's a photo. In this drawing here, I drew it straight up, and it's very common to, with a big long angle like that, to just not be careful enough to get the angle right. It's a little angled because in my mind I knew it was a little angled, but it's nowhere near as angled as this one is over here. Just a couple other things here. Um, these windows here, they're kind of just thrown on there in what I think it looks like there, but in reality, what it looks like is much more of a little angle down, and I'm not going to do this very well right here, but it has this kind of angle going up, and they kind of get it gets, I really didn't do that right, but it gets smaller as it goes back. It's smaller back here. Other things are, I just drew lines between things. I know they went between, but when the things, these, oh man, I wish I remember what those are called on a sailboat. You're supposed to know all the terms when you sail, and I cannot remember what those are. But and if you look in the original one here, they have slight angles to them. This gives the depth and perspective of how those angle on the real boat. And then here, I wasn't careful to get that right, and I just did that. I also placed the boat kind of sitting in the water here and drew some waves. If you look at the original drawing, it is sitting in the water, but it's sitting in a place almost level with the horizon, the top of it, and it angles off towards you. It kind of comes back to that hull shape again, but it it it's just occupying a different space in the water than this one is. This one's just kind of sitting out here up high near the horizon, where you see this one comes almost down to the bottom of the photo here, and this one's way up high. So um, the relationship to where it is to you is just different. So um, that's kind of what some stuff I wanted to point out to you. I'm going to talk with you a little bit and give you a challenge about the reasons these things happen. Okay, so I told you there was good news about this. And the good news is this: all the problems that we just talked about, or that commonly come up that make it difficult to draw, and that I guarantee is the biggest hurdles you struggle with, really only come down to three things. Okay, the first one is relationships of size and distance between things in the drawing. The relationships of size and distance between things in a drawing. That's the first one. Second one is angles. The angles of things and the angles you see in the drawing. Seeing if the angles are accurate and getting them accurate is a really key thing in drawing looking right. And the last thing is just shapes. Shapes that we're looking at, when if we can match the shape to the drawing to the original, will go a long way. Now, I used to hear people say that, and I'd lose my mind because they'd be talking about something like the hull of a boat and be like, "That's not a shape. That is a weird looking like whatever. It's not any shape I know. It has a flat side over here and an angled side over here, and it's bigger over here. It's not a shape I know. I know a square. I know a circle. That's not either of those. But there is a shape to it, and all complex shapes can be broken down into smaller shapes or angles. And so it really comes back to, if it's a weird shaped object, it comes down to, maybe a couple triangles or a half circle or whatever. We'll spend a whole day on that, but those are the three things. It's the relationships of size and distance between objects in a drawing, the angles found in the drawing, and shapes found in the drawing. Everything comes down pretty much to these three things as far as the structure of a drawing. So I have a challenge for you today. I told you earlier, I want you to find a container of some sort. This is just a simple glass, a little smaller at the bottom, a little bigger at the top. You could find a vase, a vase. You could find a coffee mug, a can of soda, or something round. And I want you to put it on something horizontal and flat in front of you, and I want you to draw it. And if it helps, because I don't want to add too much at once to you, you can take a photo of it and then draw from the photo. If it's too big of a leap to draw it right in front of you and see it from that angle, you're welcome to take a photo and draw from it, or draw it live right in front of you also. But that's your challenge for today. I want you to not spend more than 10 minutes on this, okay? I want you to put it up, take a photo or put it up, get your sketchbook out, and I want you to draw it on the surface that it's on, not more than 10 minutes, and bring it to tomorrow's drawing adventure. Okay, warning. This is a notoriously difficult exercise. Drawing a round container sitting on something flat in front of you is difficult. You're going to be frustrated. It's hard to do. That's okay. Remember, embrace your two best friends: failure and your ability to see that something's wrong. But only take 10 minutes to do this, because I want you to just work at it, not overwork at it, because we're going to talk about why it's hard and how to actually do this well. So, just a little disclaimer. Thanks again for joining me. We are getting better and better every day. We're learning every day. Here's my encouragement for today. You already possess the second ability, which is knowing when a drawing doesn't look right. And my direction for you is to use those three principles of relationships of size and distance, angles, and shapes to understand why something doesn't look right. But for now, you're just going to do this drawing of your container, whatever you choose. We'll see you tomorrow.